an inflationary rate of healthcare, multiples of any other industry. If we do not focus on what we need in terms of doing good, we will have failed. We have this opportunity to actually change it.
So first question to kick things off, what's the most ambitious thing you've attempted with AI?
I think social media and all the weird things that we read drive this idea that ambition with AI should be solving a big, huge problem. For us, it really was about our first project that transformed the way that our frontline workers did their job. It was transformative for us because it meant that we could shift resources to doing other jobs as opposed to just literally transcribing a single piece of paper. But it was hard for the organization who's historically been reliant on humans to do things.
We've seen a lot of success pretty much across sort of the entire spectrum from research all the way to HR. We wanted to see if we could take the first internal draft of an informed consent form and could we auto draft a 70 or 80% of that. That is still just a draft and the human signs off at the end. So it's human driven, human led, but it opens the aperture to all sorts of documents that you can do in a way that is enterprise grade. If you're running a late stage trial, a phase 3 trial, you could be looking at having to do 500 to 1,000 informed consent forms. And I think that we underestimate how much those incremental gains are actually going to have over the next 5 years.
Many in the life sciences industry have thought about the so-called, all-knowing crystal ball. We're in the practice of predicting, will this trial succeed? Will this product get to market? What will its peak year sales be? The idea that you can feed in all the information, all the data on the web, all of the email, and come up with a precise, robust probability of success attached to a risk-adjusted peak year sales number has been something many investors and many companies, when they're making decisions about to invest in a product or not, have sought after. And I think, frankly, that ambition maybe takes the focus off a lot of the incremental operational improvements that can be made and are already being made, that in a more subtle manner are already having increasing impact on the success of drug development.
I envision 20% reductions in our administrative cost with leveraging AI. Also, more importantly, 10% reduction in our medical loss ratio, and probably 5% increase in membership just related to AI and improved engagement. The engagement strategies that I think truly are the longer term, some of the mental health services and solutions that I think will have clinical outcomes kind of bridge between engagement and clinical outcomes, and those I think are the ones that are most exciting actually.
I want to zoom back out, 10 years out in the future. Do you think that AI adoption broadly in healthcare is more hype or more reality?
Okay, so 90% of the time, I feel like it's hype. On the flip side, though, there's this 10% of the time where I'll encounter a company that's changing something, and it's not necessarily AI related, but it's changing something about how we operate. And I had this moment where I was like, holy shit, every thesis that I'm thinking of right now for our company is potentially wrong because we're going to totally disrupt EMRs, and I can fall down this rabbit hole. I think we're still a long ways off because I think it's hard to do behavior change, but I'm hopeful that we really do disrupt healthcare. So maybe our end of lives are better and our kids' lives are better.
I want to get, what is your hottest take on AI?
They say roughly 70 to 80% of AI projects fail to even get out of pilot stage. And so it's this graveyard of pilots. And so one of the things I think is really critical that we've done, look at what are the factors for failure and then organize against that. All of our AI projects are from the top down every single year. The organizational model, I think it's one of the most critical things that CEOs need to think about in order to prepare against all of those points of failure that happen with AI.
The data to date is still so fragmented. There's no individual stakeholder that possesses data at enough scale to take advantage of some of the technologies that exist today. Even claims data, which is probably more mature, as far as I can tell, it's only, really at a scale sufficient to really generate meaningful analyses in the United States. And the rest of the world is kind of like a dark space. How do we aggregate data across all those silos in a way where we can actually use it for making good judgments?